Hey everybody, it's Karyn Bryant here for the MMA Heat podcast, and I'm here with
Alan Jovan. What's up, guys?
listen, Alan. I can't help but notice your face looks a little different.
Oh,
What happened over here? What happened?
right. Well, I hired this new makeup guy.
Yeah.
I had to fire him right away. He wasn't cutting it.
Right.
No, just hard week of training. I know, superficially I look a little banged up,
Yeah.
but I feel great. I'm in great shape right now. I flipped the switch. Training's going good, and I just had a really good week last week, and that's why I look like this.
So why would the flip? Well, I always get this saying wrong. Why would the switch get flipped? Did you get a call from Joe Silva?
Exactly.
You
Yeah. No,
did.
I miss all the time. So I told you last time we spoke, I was trying to fight in March.
Right.
My management wanted me to wait for the UFC to officially announce it, but it's taking too long, Karyn. We're on MMA Heat.
Yeah.
You guys are getting it first. March 19th, Brisbane, Australia. The Mirror versus Hunt card. I got the call. They needed a welterweight to jump in there and fight Brandon O'Connell.
Nice.
Brandon O'Reilly.
O'Reilly.
And I gladly accepted.
Cool.
So, forward to it. That's about 8 weeks out, so it's perfect. It's a timeline that I wanted.
Yeah.
I've never been to Australia, so here we go.
Very nice. Well, congratulations, and thank
Yeah.
you for breaking the news here. Plus, have you been to Australia yet?
I've never been to Australia. I'm excited, man. We're on the coast. It's supposed to be beautiful there.
Yeah.
I think it's like an hour away from John Wayne Barr's gym. Who I'm a big
Nice. I've been there.
Love. You've been there?
Yeah.
I love him. As a fighter.
Yeah.
His antics, his social media. He's super fun. So I'm gonna try to make it out there, get some training.
Yeah.
I'm pumped. I'm wearing my Reebok gear
Sweet.
already. It's not fight week yet, but I'm already starting to slowly transition into fight mode, and I'm ready to get it going.
Very nice. Well, congratulations on that. Perfect timing here. We're going to head into round one. What we're going to talk about today, actually, for the first couple of rounds is TJ versus Dominic, and then we'll get into some of the other fights as well. And I also want to talk about Chris Cyborg's victory. But first and foremost, it's a funny situation because technically it's Ann New. In Dom's heart, I know he believes Ann still. Really, really close fight. Hard, just difficult. I don't know how you saw it. How did you feel? Well, let's just put it this way. How did you initially just feel when they said Ann New?
I was hoping to hear new for sure. When he gave it a little bit of a stutter before saying new or still,
Right.
and my heart skipped a beat. I wanted it for Dom. I felt that he rightfully won the fight.
Yeah.
I thought that he rightfully won the fight. At least 3-2. Some people saw it 4-1, but I saw at least a good 3-2 victory. And aside from him rightfully winning the fight, persevering from what he went through, his backstory, I wanted him to become the champion again, and he did what he had to do that night.
Yeah, I feel the same, in terms of the storyline of understanding how much he's gone through. But same thing when they were like, you're right. He had this pause. I was like, oh my God. And there was actually a sense of, as much as I have all along believed in him and believed it was something that he totally could do, that moment when it actually happens, like, oh my God, oh my God. So really, really happy for him. It's tricky to go through the fight. I have no, you can see how TJ might be really frustrated, but that's the fight that Dominic does. That's how Dominic wins.
He made
Is that
it
whole thing of like, well, you're not hitting me though, bro. And so I understand the call and I'm cool with it. It's tough. It's tough to see how it went. Actually, I wrote down because the judges, two of the judges gave TJ round one. Only one of them gave Dominic round one.
Mm-hmm.
All three judges gave Dominic round two.
Mm-hmm.
Two judges gave Dominic round three. One gave it to TJ. One judge gave round four to Dom. The other two gave them to TJ. And round five, TJ got it on two cards. Dominic on one. I mean, later in the fight, when Dominic started limping, what were you thinking?
I thought his freaking knee blew out again.
I know.
And to add to that, I was worried about his knee. Those were beautiful leg kicks. I mean, those leg kicks caught him off guard while he was moving into the kick, and it was all shin. There was no foot involved. So those leg kicks were painful. And you could see after the fight, I think it might have been after they announced the winner, or before that, but Dominic went up to Dana White, and you could see them having a conversation, and you could see the look on Dana White's face in disgust. And Dominic was like shaking. His leg was kind of trembling. and he was taking the weight off of it. And I was picturing him ahead. He was telling Dana the news, I tore my ACL in the fourth.
Could you imagine?
I muscled through, I toughed it
Right.
out. But I thought he had some horrible news. So I was very glad to hear him say that he just was fighting with an injury, and obviously it got a lot worse. And credit to him, he could have went out there, like he said, and said, I'm coming to this fight with an injury, but he's above that. He didn't mention it. He said he was injured, but he didn't really get into great detail about it. He never let it play a factor in the fight, and didn't seem to slow him down. None, whatsoever. So, he did great.
Well, and it's interesting too with the footwork, because that's the whole thing of what I find so amazing when you watch Dominic is how, obviously you're a fighter, you know this better than I, but how somebody can seem to be right there and then just be beyond reach. And I just kept thinking in my head, like, how was that going to wear on TJ mentally, feeling like I'm so close to hitting this guy and not getting it. I do wonder about TJ's internal dialogue during that fight. How frustrated did he get?
Well, I tell you what, Karyn, watching the beginning of the fight, I remember the first 2 minutes thinking, Dominic Cruz is playing with fire. Yeah. He started initially slipping with his hands down, and you could see the punches just grazing off of his chin. And then the couple head kicks, he did eat a couple head kicks, but in the beginning, the head kicks were just missing. And I was just thinking it's only a matter of time. If TJ is getting this close in the first round, he's going to lock in. He's going to figure out his timing in the later rounds. But that didn't happen. TJ only got better and found his rhythm even more. One note to that, credit to Dwayne Ludwig. I remember hearing him in the corner, third or fourth round, saying, you know what? He's evading too much. Don't aim for the head, aim for the body. Hit something, as long as you're hitting something. And that was a beautiful change as a coach, because even if you're not doing as much damage to the body as you would if you hit the head, like he said if you hit an arm, hopefully you break the arm. Yeah. But in the judge's eyes, what I'm referring to is you hit the body, the judges don't always have a great angle, like the commentators referred to in this fight. If the judge is behind you and it hits the body, they only see the impact. Right. They see body language, and that to them is a score, rather if it cut the guy or hit him in the forearm. So as long as you're hitting something, that was a great change by Ludwig to go for the body. He did go for the body a couple times, and he started using the leg kicks. Yeah. But it wasn't enough. Cruz did his thing, man. He was quick. He started getting the jab working very well, and he fought a beautiful fight. The thing, too, especially about going to the body, is that's how you wear somebody down as well. I know a lot of people go out there looking for the KO and go head hunting, but any great boxing coach will tell you, to wear out the body first, because those things will add up and eat away at their ability to breathe deeply and all of that. Speaking of the breathing deeply, I watched afterwards when Dominic was talking to Megan, on their website. And they were talking about the cardio, talking about the endurance, whether or not it looked like Dominic was slowing down later. And he was saying, listen, when I take those deep breaths, that's a reset button for me. He said, and if you actually look back, that's something that I've done all along. So it wasn't fatigue. It's taking a deep breath, oxygenating my body, and getting back in there with the reset button. I think one thing that was interesting, and as I said, we're going to power right through, so we are in round 2 here, is that the knees, there were a couple of knees that landed. TJ threw a couple of knees. I was like, oh my God, okay, that one hurt. I could tell that one hurt. But what did you feel about the takedowns? Were you surprised that Dominic got any takedowns on TJ? Because obviously, as we know, that's something that's been incredibly difficult to do up to this point. No surprise. Even though TJ hasn't been taken down, I felt that was the story of this fight going into it. The superior footwork and angles from Cruz and the wrestling advantage versus TJ's precision and power striking. I knew he would have a wrestling advantage, and he showed it. He showed it. Not a lot of people take down Faber, and Cruz takes down Faber. Right. Cruz may not have the accolades in his collegiate career as some fighters, but he's very, very good at mixing it up with his footwork. And he did a great job. He took him down, I want to say, about 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, I forget he got him, but I was surprised, to be honest with you. I didn't expect all those takedowns.
I wasn't shocked with the takedowns as much as I was surprised with TJ's ability to fend off. He never gave up. This is something that going into class today at Black House, working with Kenny Johnson, he took notes from that fight, and we drilled on the mistakes that we saw in different fights. And one of the things we drilled on, which every wrestler should drill, that TJ did to perfection, was never giving up. He got taken down, but he never exhaled and said, okay, you're in side guard. Let me work out of it. he never gave up. Every time he would get taken down, he would use his knees to have a butterfly guard or just push him away, hand fight, and he would get back up to his feet. So although Cruz did a phenomenal job of taking down TJ, which nobody seemed to be able to do, TJ never stayed down for more than 5 or 10 seconds that I remember. So he did credit to both guys, man. TJ's a really tough guy to hold down. You can see it.
Absolutely. So do you think there should be an immediate rematch? There's part of me that says yes because it was so close, and because I like that rivalry, and because perhaps there's nobody better suited to face Dominic next anyway. Right. But, if of course people are going to get mad if all of a sudden he gets the immediate rematch. Other people haven't gotten them in those kind of situations. Carlos Condit, for example. I don't know. Would you sign up for a rematch?
Absolutely. Why not?
Yeah.
It was a great fight, entertaining. It was a fight that I was really, really up for. Yeah. I mean, I don't always. I'll admittedly say I don't always get that excited for the lighter divisions. Right. I don't. There's something about it, but something about this fight, about the new breed of fighter that T.J. Dillashaw has become, and then the heart and determination of Dominic Cruz and his backstory. It really drew me into this fight, and it was a phenomenal fight, man. It was a really fun fight to watch back and forth. So I would love to see a rematch. It's a great one to put on UFC 200 coming up. Both can take some time off. Yeah. It's a card. It'll help sell some tickets. I say rematch UFC 200.
Yeah, I'm not trying to say I wouldn't watch it, Alan. Of course, if there's a rematch, potentially there could be a third fight. Potentially there could be a third fight. Of course, if you ask Dominic, of course he'll say there isn't. I mean, I will say that I think that they're having an exciting enough storyline, and that yes, it was close enough. But you're right. I don't know how long Dominic's going to be out. I think one of the things he was saying after was, that the injury is plantar fasciitis, and that he said that he felt at one point that it just popped, that it's a tendon issue in your foot. And he said that he did feel like at one point it popped and that he was actually in excruciating pain. He said, I'm usually pretty good with pain management or whatever. He said, but that was brutal. So really that's what it was. And if anybody's a football fan, they know that that's what Peyton Manning has been going through, which is obviously an incredibly painful thing. I understand the storyline of Dominic versus Uriah, but yeah, TJ's a better fight. And I don't know that Uriah, as much as what he's done collectively is awesome, I don't know if he's really in the position for that fight.
To me, that's more of, if you want a little bit of drama, if they were former teammates, then that's your fight. But if you want the top of the division, you want to see that rematch. These are the two best guys in the division right now. They're both arguably, was undisputed champion, now is a new champion, but a rematch would be great. If Cruz shuts him down in a rematch as well, then it proves without a doubt he's the best. But to touch on that, I will say I want to see the rematch. I think we saw the best T.J. Dillashaw that night. He changed his fight camp. He's added new tools to his trade. He's training at elevation. Yeah. He came into that fight, although he lost the verbal war that we saw with John Anik. Coming into that fight, we spoke about this. Verbally, Cruz had me sold on the fight. But walking into the cage, Cruz almost looked focused, but he looked nervous. He looked very nervous. And I thought T.J. Dillashaw came in with that almost normal team alpha male energy where they're yelling and they're excited and they're pumped. And it takes me to get cracked before I could act like that. And these guys, they're coming out of the tunnel just giving high fives, and you see the electricity inside of them. They've already got the adrenaline going. So I thought, man, he's already channeled that zone. He's exactly where he needs to be. We might see something amazing tonight. And we saw a great T.J. Dillashaw, but it wasn't enough against a Cruz who hadn't fought in 2 years. And I think if they fight again, Cruz is only going to look even better.
Well said, and in perfect timing here. We're just between rounds like we said we were going to be. So as we move into round 3 here, I do want to talk about the co-main event, which was pretty interesting. Yeah, you're right. I forgot my water between rounds. Yeah. I'm supposed to have some water. I know, right? All right, round 3. So here we go. First and foremost, not to say that Eddie Alvarez and Anthony Pettis wasn't the fight I expected is not the phrasing. I guess it wasn't the Pettis I expected more so than not the Alvarez I expected. Obviously, he's a very smart strategist in how to neutralize Anthony Pettis. But I will say I was frustrated kind of watching that fight because I like to see Pettis do his thing, win or lose. Do you know what I mean? I like him to be in that sort of engaging firefight. And since we didn't see that, I don't know if that's because Eddie Alvarez was so good or if something was off with Anthony and he was rusty. I don't know.
You know, that fight, I put myself in Eddie Alvarez's shoes for that fight for some reason because I could see, having focused on wrestling very heavily myself the last 2 years of my career, I saw Eddie Alvarez just given everything that he had to hold out a very strong and athletic, strong core strength and athletic Pettis. He's a hard guy to hold out, man. You can see it. As soon as he touches the mat, he's like a Dillashaw. He's so fit, so athletic, has such good core strength that he pops back up. And Eddie Alvarez is going from double to the single to the double to the single to get him down, pop back up. And I kept thinking, man, as soon as they break apart, Eddie Alvarez is going to be in so much trouble. His arms are going to be so faded, and blood's going to be full of his arms that he's not going to be able to swing. And as soon as they would break apart, he would close the distance again and do the same thing over and over. So that was one of those fights. We've seen it the last 2 fights with Eddie Alvarez. When the fight that he put on against Gilbert Melendez was a great fight. It showed a lot of heart. He was injured. I think his eye was messed up in that fight, and he still pushed forward and got the W. And this fight, like you said, it wasn't the Pettis fight that we love because I'm a Pettis fan. When I see
how can you not be, you know?
I want to see something amazing. I want to see a technical stand-up battle. But when I see somebody doing whatever they have to do to get the fight, as did Eddie Alvarez did, you got to applaud him, man. And I will say this. As I just said, I love to watch Pettis do his thing on the feet. And he did take the initial action of working more wrestling. He's been working with, I think it was Izzy. Yeah. Is it Izzy with his wrestling? And Izzy made it. I heard another thing from the corner during the fight. Pettis was square on the cage. Izzy was hollering at him, one hip on the cage. You don't ever want to be flat. Right. You want one hip on. One cheek sneak, Kenny Flores.
Oh, no.
Sneak. So for you other guys out there wrestling, one cheek on the cage, not two.
That's great.
He made that adjustment. He was given on the proper instruction. I just didn't see the fire in his eyes this time. I didn't see the fire in Pettis as soon as he got off the cage to make him pay. He didn't make him pay when he got off, and that's why he got put back. But I just want to say one last thing. I just saw a tweet that Pettis had. He was on the plane, him and his brother, they had sunglasses on, and he said, I need a real fight as soon as possible. He said something along those lines. That's not an exact quote. But it made me think, like, he's kind of blowing this off as, like, that wasn't a fight. But it was. I get it. I've been held down by a wrestler before, too, but that's just a hole that he started to fix. He just didn't get the job done. But don't give up on it. You started fixing it. You've gotten better from this camp. You didn't get the win, but he got better in wrestling. Stay with what you're doing, Pettis. Keep working, Izzy. Keep working the wrestling. And, that anti-wrestling is going to open up more of his striking. So I want to see him get back in there. But I don't want to see him thinking that this wasn't a real fight because Alvarez fought him really hard.
Well, right. And when you see something like that, I wonder if that points to, at some point in the fight, that mentally Anthony had kind of checked out. I mean, if he's saying that after the fact, it's not a real fight. Is he sitting there in the middle of this just being like, oh, well, I'm just getting, laid and prayed or humped or whatever, terminology you want to grind it against the cage, toward. I don't know what you want to call it, but I wonder if mentally that hurt him not being in a fight where he got to really engage, and maybe he didn't feel like he got to do his thing, and now all of a sudden he's in somebody else's fight.
That's kind of what I was hinting at, and you could see the last minute of the fight. He broke off of the cage. Mm-hmm. He knew he was down. There's 1 minute left. They're in the stand up, and he didn't go for that. He didn't go for the final kill. You know what I mean? He kind of stayed back and let Eddie continue to push the pace of the fight, and that's what cost him.
Mm-hmm. Well, in the last 30 seconds of this round, a question for you: do you think there is a problem's maybe not the right word, but Eddie's style, maybe not fan friendly, maybe not putting butts in seats in terms of who he'll get to fight next, in terms of moving up the ladder?
You mean just for Eddie's case?
Yeah, do you know what I mean? They love to say we like exciting fighters, and while you're winning, you still have to be flashy too.
I don't think it'll hurt him. I think when you look back, you're just going to look at the card, and you're going to say, who did Eddie beat? He lost to Donald Cerrone, but he just beat Gilbert Melendez, and he beat Anthony Pettis, who's the #1 guy in the world. He's moving up the ladder. They're not going to look at how the fight came about. I think with that said, too, this is also starting to open up a blueprint on how to beat Pettis. It showed that pressure and wrestling 3 times now have beaten Pettis, and you're going to see more and more fighters start to use this in the cage against them.
That's right. All right, we're between rounds here. Like I said, I wish I had my water. You know, that was a.
Cheers. I'm sorry.
Yeah, nice. You're a professional fighter now. You're in. Actually, one thing I was going to ask you on the way home from Invicta the other day, I couldn't tell if that, the exit that you take to go to Kings, I think they had your Equinox ad up there in rotation on some other stuff, and I was like, well, that's cool because that's the exit everybody takes to get over to Kings, and I thought, you know what, that's pretty badass if you're ever like driving around and seeing your own ad up there. You're like, oh hell right.
Yeah. No, I've been to, but now I have even more of a reason to want to go.
Yeah. Very nice. Well, folks, as we enter round 4, the other, I think most significant fight on the card anyway, in terms of how people feel and having an opinion about the controversy. Look at that. I got water. Thank you, corner man. I got a good corner man here. Thank you, Wade. Is Travis Browne and Meathead Matt Mitrione. I call him, I like Matt Mitrione. I just love the nickname Meathead. People, of course, saying that the eye pokes were what did it for Travis. And, you saw, and Wade will put up the freakazoid, total recall thing that was growing out of his head, this poor guy. Travis obviously beat him up in the third and got the stoppage. How do you feel about the eye poke zone? Do you think that really was a huge significant factor in making the fight go Travis's way?
Well, it's unfortunate. Eye pokes suck. It sucks. But they were obviously accidental. He didn't intend it. He did it twice, I believe. But it was incidental. I don't think it played a huge factor in the fight because when he got him down on the ground, the key to his success was once he got him in the mount, Matt Mitrione, he didn't shrimp out. He didn't try to get half guard. He stayed there and just kind of rolled side to side. He wasn't doing the proper jiu-jitsu defensive technique to get out of that position. So I think that's what inevitably cost him the end of the fight. Now, to get poked in the eye or kicked in the nuts, that always sucks, and it takes your power level down a bit. I will say that.
Right.
I don't know if it had any determining outcome on what would have happened in the fight. I do want to add to that fight that I thought that Travis Browne didn't quite look like himself, to be honest.
No?
I didn't think he looked technically as sharp as I've seen him before in the past, and I didn't know if it was being a little gun shy from the last fight or he's still learning from his change of camp now. I'm not sure what it was, but I didn't think that he looked quite that sharp this fight.
It's interesting. I feel like with Travis, there's all this other noise around him too. With him being in a relationship with Rhonda, with him having gone through the accusations of spousal abuse. And I wonder if he felt the pressure more in this situation. Maybe we'll hear in some interviews, afterwards if he's talking about it. I agree on the gun shyness part, but maybe that's also in respect to what happened with Arlovsky. And when you go all out, you might get some back.
Right.
I don't know. But I do think that a broken orbital bone doesn't come from an eye poke. And that's really, I guess, the issue with Matt's eye. Yeah.
Did Matt?
It's broken orbital. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then I guess he has a shoulder injury as well. But so that's what it was. So that I would imagine comes from a punch and not an eye poke. So I don't like that it's getting blamed on that because, I don't think listen, if the eye poke was that big of a problem, Matt shouldn't have kept fighting. I mean, as much as it sucks and we all want to see a fight, but if it really is that problematic to him, he probably shouldn't have kept going. But it's funny. The guys when we were watching, they were saying it's an old boxing trick that, if the guy's saying, how many fingers am I holding up? And your trainer actually just kind of like taps you on your shoulder behind your back to say 1 or 2 or whatever. So we'll have to go back and look at the tape and see if that was happening at all there. Matt, I'm happy Matt kept going. But I think, the interesting thing when I look at Matt Mitrione and it's such a weird thing and he gets in these good fights and he moves at the ranks, but I'm kind of like, I'm always looking for him to be better than he is. I don't want to sound disrespectful, but I feel like I want him to go in there and actually like do more than I see him do.
He's a super athletic guy. That was the thing with him and Browne. They're both big men who move very agile, like a lighter weight guys. And going back to the eye poke, like you said, it would have been very easy for him to just say, you know what, I can't see, I'm seeing double.
Right.
It would have been a no contest, or would have gone to the scorecards, however it would have been played out. But he didn't want that. He's got heart. He's a fighter's fighter. He wanted to continue, and he got beat at the end. But yeah, it showed the holes in his game on the ground. I believe. I feel like that's always been a bit of his Achilles heel, was the ground game. And once he got mounted, hey, having a 6'8" guy on top of you is not easy if you're a black belt or a blue belt.
Right.
But he wasn't doing a lot of the things that he should have been doing, just to at least take step by step by step by step to get out of that position. He never took step one. He was just trying to fight back, and that's kind of what ended up costing him. What I found weird about that fight too was, and it could have been for some of the things you said because of the spousal abuse, or the Ronda Rousey thing, but he got booed. Travis Brown was booed after his victory and at the weigh-in. So at first I thought, maybe they're booing him because of the possible eye poke, but they booed him at the weigh-ins as well, I believe. That was a tough crowd, man. Boston, they're always pretty tough, but they booed Travis Brown at the weigh-ins and after his fight. They booed Eddie Alvarez.
Yeah.
He's an East Coast guy as well. I didn't understand that one at all.
Yeah, the Eddie, I think, because at first, before they were pro Eddie, some people, I don't know, it was weird because you're right, he's an East Coast guy more so. I am from Boston, and I will. Oh yeah, no, you're right. Like, it's a tough
Tell
town.
me the thought process.
Oh yeah, no, we'd like to talk crap and all that stuff.
Yeah.
We're between rounds now. By the way, my Patriots are going to be playing my husband's Denver Broncos next weekend, so I will be talking ridiculous amounts of crap here in the house.
Like commercial right here.
But yeah,
jersey on.
But yeah, they were booing Travis, and I think it was because of some of this other stuff.
I meant to bring you.
Oh yes, he brought my chalice. How awesome was this? My friend made me this. So.
That's like Indiana Jones.
It totally is. It totally is. Well, as we are now in round 5, I'm sorry, I loaded up the wrong clock that didn't have the bell ringing, so I'm sorry, that's my bad. I don't know if you were at Invicta the other night. I was there. Maybe I just didn't see you, but I know you were watching that fight, right?
Yes.
So, Chris Cyborg, pretty, surprising to nobody, retained her featherweight title. She had a first-round finish, and it actually came just with seconds left. I thought it was going to happen sooner, but her opponent had this strategy, for good or for ill, of being relentless with the attempt of a single-leg takedown, not giving it up for so long. I'm curious to ask you about this because clearly there was merit in that, and I have Chris locked up, so she can't be fully engaging and really wailing on me with her powerful punches, but at the same time, I'm in such position for elbows, and she did get hit in the head a lot. So I'm curious, at what point strategically are you realizing that this is getting me nowhere?
This was her entire game plan going into the fight. I realized that right away.
Yeah.
She never had any intention on standing or on trading or on anything with Cyborg other than getting her to the ground. I was 100% commit to getting her to the ground and trying to finish her there. When she would lock her up, even when she didn't have position, she had Cyborg's single leg. She had her leg up. It was a single leg. She had her knee up. And she would go into kind of a rear naked choke type position just to kind of rest because she was so determined not to give up that single leg. She wanted to work on it. And holding up Cyborg's leg is difficult for anybody, I'm sure. Holding it up during the fight for an entire 5-minute round while she's elbowing you in the side, I thought this is doomed. This game plan is doomed. Obviously, she doesn't have a backup because she's not a striker from what I saw. She looked like she had no striking. And then when she would exchange with her, she wasn't even trying to keep Cyborg honest. She would throw punches, and they were 2 feet away from Cyborg. Cyborg never felt intimidated by her punches. She knew that she was throwing the punch to set up the takedown. And finally, at the last couple of seconds of the round, she had enough, and she just landed one of her own. But, I will tell you what, going into a fight against Cyborg, I'd never seen an opponent so relaxed.
Yes.
It's in the ring. She was super calm. I thought she's got something up her sleeve. She sold me for a minute.
Well, you're right, because I was at Chris's last fight as well. There was that show right before, remember in February or whatever, when they had her, or maybe it wasn't the last one, but when night before Ronda and everybody was fighting here in LA. You were on that card. You were on the LA card, right? So the night before there was the Invicta show, and that's the whole thing with Chris is usually she does come out and it's just extreme violence in a few seconds. So I thought, okay, hey, strategically, this is kind of cool. We're going to get a little bit more of a fight, and we'll go. I just didn't expect that woman to hold on as long as she did without really progressing at all. Chris obviously has very good balance, but like you said, that is going to wear you out. Chris is she's actually, I interviewed her after, and she even calls herself. She's like, I'm a big girl, so that I'm like, yeah, but somebody said, oh, she's calling her fat and this and that, and why she can't make weight, and I'm like, yeah, there's zero fat on that woman, zero fat on that woman. But I thought it was just a question of time before, as soon as you get disengaged from this connection, you're going to eat it. And so, the 10-second clapper went, and it was game over. Now, the question, of course, becomes, and what do we do with that? And, I talked to Chris after the fight, as I said, and I talked to Tito, who works with her. And we were talking about the Ronda thing. I'm curious what you think of whether, it's still an interesting fight. Ronda talks so much smack to her. And at this point, Ronda doesn't have the belt on the line anymore. So perhaps they could meet at a catch weight at 140 pounds. And that was what I was alluding to. Chris was saying, she's like, yeah, I'm big. She had a very hard weight cut this time. She said it was really hard for her to make 145. So, 135 is, I just don't think, reasonable. Would you still like to see her fight Ronda?
I would love to see the matchup, but at this point, it's not that enticing to me anymore either. She doesn't have the belt, and I feel like if Ronda's going to fight her, then why not fight her now? You know what I mean? There's no belt. There's no... Dana would always say she's the 135-pound champ. Why is she going to fight up? Well, now she's not the champ. She's kind of at this point where she could take a super fight or do things like that because she's doing a lot of movies and she's not going to be fighting 2 to 3 times a year anymore. So this would be a good time to do it if she wants it, but I don't feel like this is necessarily as big of a money fight as it once was now that she's not the champ. One fight that I would like to see with Cyborg, I remember H.E.A.T saying that she would be on the fight Cyborg, and I think that'd be a very compelling fight right there, and props to H.E.A.T for stepping up when a lot of women don't want to do that. So I'd be thrilled to see that fight.
Very nice. Well, and you perfectly timed it to finish out round 5. Yeah, I mean, obviously, as we know now, Misha will be facing Holly Holm. Just to finish up here with this, I mean, Chris was saying when she watched the fight with Holly, she kind of knew that Ronda would react that way. She said, Ronda just really doesn't like getting punched, and I know that's an easy thing to say, and really, who does like getting punched? Right. But even before that, Chris said, that's definitely the thing to do and really push her, and she really doesn't like getting punched, and she really... Basically, it sounded to me that she was kind of questioning when she is training how much Ronda gets in terms of real sparring, in terms of really getting used to that punches, because Chris was sort of implied that she maybe doesn't have enough of a sense of being used to that. But
I remember on some of the countdown shows them showing Ronda sparring with professional women boxers. And that led me to believe that she's doing that. She's fighting the top level strikers in the world in training and getting better from it. So it's hard to say without being in the camp. But I will say that Ronda definitely, it's her camp. It's not like she's, she brings in who she wants to bring when she feels comfortable, I'm sure. So she might have to go go to a team, maybe mix it up with more girls rather than just who she's picking. But I'm pro Ronda. I didn't jump on board this. And I know you said the same thing. I think that a lot of haters came out of nowhere. I'll be excited to see Ronda get back on her feet and do well again.
Yeah, me too. Well, it's fun. Those Invicta shows are fun too. I don't know, for you, it must be when you go to those old shows, like the hangar down in Orange County was cool, but that sense of the small show again. And what's cool is, when they walk out, they're like right there. Those kind of shows are still really fun to go to.
Yeah, you can see, I saw one guy, the co-main event, I think it was, he had his baby strapped to the front of his chest, and when the fighter came out, he went and photobombed it and stuff.
Right.
They don't even have security. They don't have guardrails up.
Yeah, no.
See the crowd right there.
Yeah.
So it's fun to watch, though.
It's fun. Yeah, it's fun. The one thing I did feel bad for was for Colleen Schneider and I'm going to mispronounce her name, so I don't want to say it, but how they had to wait for the ambulance to come back to the arena, and they did their whole ring walks, and then they were up there and got iced out for probably 15 minutes. They had to just stand there. I was like, oh my God, that would suck. That's
a perfect example of the regional show circuit. That's what happens all the time. There's one ambulance until the ambulance comes back, or sometimes the ambulance is only there until midnight. If the show goes past midnight, no main event.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy. I did. Yeah, I got some other interviews there that were kind of fun. I spoke to Colleen backstage with her boyfriend Josh Barnett. So people should look for that one. That's fun. Like Josh is always really fun, and you never know what you're going to get with him. So it's completely random. We talk about everything from the fights to chicken farming, the movie Crawl. We talk about Josh's upcoming fight with Ben Rothwell. It's fun. It was fun. I also talked to Angela Hill, who was in the UFC. Went back down to Invicta, got her first KO win. And I ran into Max Holloway. Question for you. He said he wants to fight Jose Aldo. And I was like, I would watch that. Can you see that? Could you see Holloway Aldo?
Good fight, man.
Right?
Good fight. I haven't even thought about that one yet, but yeah, I mean Max Holloway's got to be somewhere in the top 5. I'm assuming, right? He's
up there.
maybe 3 or 4 or something. So that would be a very intriguing fight, man. I mean, that's a kind of strikers fight, a fan-friendly fight. Two guys that are very high level and bring it. So I'll watch that fight.
Yeah, no, that's what I said. I was like, dude, I'll totally be there. And then he was telling us off camera, he said, we were talking about the idea of UFC in Hawaii maybe. And he says, yeah, man, he's really trying to hit Dana up. But for now, they're saying the problem is the rain. They're worried about the rain. And if it's in an open place, and the rain could come. And Max was like, no, I swear to God, it's not going to rain every day. And they're kind of worried. He's like, put a tent. Just put like a tent over just the octagon. Everybody else doesn't care about getting wet. So I don't know how realistic it is. But Max is really plugging for a show in Hawaii.
And they've never had a UFC show on fight, correct?
No.
I wonder how, what kind of audience they would get out there.
Yeah.
I remember back in the day, I remember, I can't remember the name of the organization that I used to watch fight out there, but
Elite XC, I think used to start, did a lot out there, yeah.
Yeah, they had one promotion. Maybe
because like KJ Noons would fight out there in different things, yeah.
Mayhem Miller versus Trent Trigg. And what I'm alluding to, what I'm getting at is the crowd was very, very like heavy and emotional, and they had a really good crowd. But I don't know if there was. I mean, I don't think it was. It was probably a 1,500 person.
Yeah.
It wasn't a 5,000 to 8,000 seating arena, so I don't know how big of a crowd they can get out there in Hawaii.
Yeah, I think that's probably part of it too, is getting the money, because it's so expensive just to get to Hawaii anyway, just for airfare. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a tough place to kind of bring people, and you'd have to have every single person who lived in all of the islands to come to the event. And
right.
Yeah.
Well, every fight would have to involve a Hawaiian so that their entire family would come by.
For sure.
I'll fight on that card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, no kidding. I volunteer too. So, all right, so we're going to have to come to your gym now because, as you said, as a reminder, you've got a fight date. You're going to, you said Brisbane?
Brisbane, Australia.
Right. Awesome.
March 19th, Brisbane, Australia. Brandon O'Reilly. And yeah, we talked about possibly coming down to Saxon.
For sure.
Saxon's Muay Thai. Great Muay Thai gym. I've been with them about 1.5 years, 2 years.
Yeah.
And he's done a lot of great things for my movement, switch stances, a lot of good things. So, yeah, I'd love to get that done with.
But who did this to you with your eye? Well, you didn't keep your hands up, or did somebody get sneaky with a left hook?
Man, it's probably my buddy.
Oh wait, no, it's your right eye. I'm looking at you, so it's that's right. Yeah, left.
Right eye.
Yeah. So they were coming with their left hand.
It was just it wasn't even a punch that was hard. It was just right on the right spot, and it was just an accumulation of a really good week. Going into last week, it was one of those weeks where every time I went home, I had blood dripping from my elbows and my knees from wrestling. And then I would go the next day and do striking, and I would get a black eye. Then I'd go back and get a brush burn. And it was just one of those weeks that I was super focused, but I kept getting these kind of like, these scratches and black eye injuries. But not injuries, kind of hurt.
Just little reminders. Let's call them reminders.
But other than that, it was a really good week to start off my camp, and I was very happy with it.
Awesome, very cool. Well, thank you for joining us here. And so, where on social media, where can people find you?
Yeah, Alan Jouban at Alan Jouban, AlanJouban. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I think my fan page on Facebook is official Alan Jouban or Alan Jouban official. Just look it up, and then again, check out my website. It's Alan-Jouban, ALAN-JOUBAN.com, soon to be AlanJouban.com. Yeah. But it's got a lot of great stuff that's going on right now with me inside of the cage, outside of the cage, and all that. So check it out.
Very cool. And of course, you can find MMA Heat on Facebook. I'm there on Facebook as well as Karyn Bryant. If you want to look at the Invicta interviews that I did, those are on my YouTube channel, YouTube.com/Karyn Bryant, or on our Facebook page. And we also, I feel like we did something else the other day, but we have some stuff coming up with some of the heavyweights that are going to be fighting very soon. So that's going to be great as well. And we also put this up on iTunes and Stitcher, so you can go to MMAHeat.com/podcast to get links for that. I'm on Twitter and Instagram too. All that's been great. Alan, thank you for your time. Enjoy your Martin Luther King Day. You know. All right, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Snuggle up next to my fireplace.
Nice. Very nice.
Jason. Come on. Jump again. Jump on. Fuck you. Jump on.